Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Today we'll be working on the effect you just saw in the video clip already. However, full disclaimer before this started, this is not a tutorial which is designed for someone who's new to Blender. So if you're new to this program, you may be confused at some of the some of the things I am doing within the program and not understanding what they mean or what they are. So if that is the case, I will be saying what the actions are called so you can look them up in other tutorials. Alright, so to get started, we are going to delete our default cube and lamp. And then we are going to be zeroing in our camera, so it is simply just sitting over the center of our grid. The first thing we are going to do now is cut out our tree from the background. So we are going to load our tree image, our tree image in the background. And we are going to be scaling the resolution until it looks fairly natural. That looks good. So next we add a plane and delete all but one vertices on this plane. We're going to put this last remaining vertice in the bottom here. And we are just going to press and hold E and use this to trace out the outline. Now this is the only reason we're doing this is to separate the tree from the background. If you have Photoshop or some other program, I would recommend that. I don't, so I am doing it this way. But a program like Photoshop would be able to separate it from the background and export it as a PNG very easily, and would be far less time consuming than this. Well, that's as far as I'm going to go here. Now, for the sake of time, I already have it all traced out, and I will bring that into this Blender file. Let me just get it back over. Okay, so when it's all traced out, you should see this blue outline over all of the tree. Now we're going to edit mode, and the goal is to fill it all in. Everything you want to see is going to be one face. Except if we all fill it in with F as is, if you noticed, this corner here, which is supposed to be isn't supposed to be filled in, is filled in. So to get everything like we want it to, we need to cap off the ends. So that's separate. And then this section that we've capped off from the rest of it will become its a separate face from the rest. This way, this face is now around that open spot. And once we have everything selected here, we can press A, and over here, go from toggle to invert. And then to make sure we have everything, press Control and plus, and press F, and it will fill everything else in. Next, we are going to go and go into the start a UV map by pressing U, and select Project from View. Make sure Camera Bounds is checked. If that's not checked, it won't map correctly. We're going to create a new material, make it a shadeless material, add a new image to this material, and select our tree image. Now once we jump over to Material mode, you can see our tree has been well duplicated. So now we are going to change our background image to the actual clip we will be editing, so we can work on it. And as you can see in this clip, I come up over here. This is not a good location for the tree, and this branch here does not look right the way it's sticking off here. To avoid that problem, I will be simply scaling this tree -1 on the x-axis. That'll mirror it, so now it looks more natural. Camera, we are going to change this back to the original 1080p settings, which the video was taken in. And there you go. That's where this tree is going to be for the rest of the scene. Now the next step is to create, as in Minecraft, which this is based off of, if you couldn't tell already. Whenever you hit a block, it starts to crack apart. So that is the next effect we will be working on. To do that, we need to add 2 planes. Make sure they are above the level of the tree. And to scale it about where you want each block to go missing. Alright, just so we can see this is not a necessary step, I am putting this over to wire draw type because it's easier to see. Alright, then we go into edit mode on the first plane, and we will use our knife tool, start about the center, and then just start making cuts outward. And it should look like a curve going outward. Press E to start a new cut and make another curve, and we're just going to keep doing this until it's got enough cracks. Some cracks should be branched off of other cracks, but some should be off the center. Try to make sure the edges have a fairly even amount of cracks on them, so you don't have huge spaces without cracks. Alright, that looks about good, so we'll be pressing enter. You can see our cracks are now showing up. All of these lines are where the cracks are going to be. On the bottom one, I'm doing the exact same thing on the bottom one, so I'll go fast forward through this for a moment. Alright, and we have both of our objects are successfully cut into pieces. Now, I will switch these back to textured so we can see what we're doing better. Now we'll be applying two modifiers to each of these. The first of them is a wireframe modifier. This makes the lines we traced into what actually looks like cracks. Now sometimes, this doesn't seem to be happening now, but sometimes it'll get odd lines or meshes just sticking out. And it'll be pretty obvious if you come across the problem. If it looks fine, it is fine. But if you get something really weird sticking out, uncheck this box that says even thickness. That sometimes causes problems with weirdly shaped meshes like this. So then we are going to thicken them until whatever looks good. You can thin in whatever you want, really. And same thing on the bottom. Try to get the top and the bottom to match. Alright. So the next thing we're going to be doing is adding two new cubes to the scene. Make sure they are about in the center of our cracked objects. But not actually currently touching any of the cracks. And then you're going to demonstrate what this is for, I am going to change this to a wire type drawing. And then we are going to add our second modifier. First we're going to duplicate this cube because there needs to be one cube per block broken. And now the second modifier is a Bajoulian. Sorry, I do not know how to pronounce that one. Is this modifier. And we are going to pick our object as cube. I'll leave all other properties and modifiers the same. And now this object will only appear where the cube is. Now to start off with, the cube shouldn't be letting any of this wireframe show. And then we go over to the cube and make sure it has a texture of being totally transparent. You should not see this cube at all. It should be only there to influence these cracked objects. Now as an example of something you can do, because all of these are applied through modifiers, if you make a mistake earlier on like this, I left a big wide portion without any form of lines or cracks on it, I can now go back in with a knife and make those lines. And now those cracks are appeared and everything looks nicer. Now we're going to be applying the same modifiers, same materials, and I will, and then we are going to be applying, as I said, the same setup, and just test to make sure everything's right. And we screwed something up. Oh, I accidentally set this to be a transparent material. I thought I was going to set this to it. Sorry about that. Bit of a mistake there. Alright, so then as you can see, we have the same setup. It all seems to be working. Just start scaling that down and put it out of the way. Sorry. Okay. So one thing I realize I haven't done yet is to trim down the start and end of the scene. This just saves render time. You don't render any useless footage. Just gonna do that real fast. Sorry, I didn't think to do this one earlier. Alright, now we are going to start animating. We need to have these sorry, let me save just so I don't lose progress. It's always a good idea to save, not to lose progress. Alright, so now to pull this effect off, we want these cracks to widen every time they're hit. So I look for the first hit, and it is on that frame. So the frame, alright, for this, to make things easier, I'm turning on auto keyframe. So the frame before, just set a keyframe, and then scale it out so the cracks start to appear in this frame. Now what this previous keyframe does means it'll jump between these 2 points within one frame. It won't look like it's moving, it will just look like it's suddenly expanding. Now look for the second hit. There. Go to the frame, once again, always go to the frame before, add a keyframe, frame after, scale it up. Now I am going to be doing this process all the way through for both cubes, so it's going to be it's pointless to show all of it once you get the idea, so I'm going to fast forward for this next bit. Alright, so I've finished with the keyframing, so playing back, the animation now looks like this. Now if you notice, the last hit, I am not expanding the cracks. That's because the tree is supposed to be broken on the last hit and disappear. Alright, so far everything is running well. The next thing we have to do is to mask out the portions of the tree that disappear after being destroyed. So we need to find the last hit and the last hit, as I mentioned before, the cracks did not expand on. That hit right there, that is the frame where the tree should be disappearing. So we're going to add another plane, turn off auto key for a moment, and we're going to position this plane where we want the tree to disappear. Alright, that's about the section. So then this plane has a transparency once again, but this time we're setting it to mask and the alpha all the way to 0. So you can see if we render out an image, that portion of the tree is now totally missing. So that's supposed to be there on that frame. So let's go into auto keyframe, add a keyframe, and anywhere else and just off over here. And it should be off over here later, or earlier, the frame before, so it jumps into place. You don't have any funny slide going in, it's right there. The next one, it's going to duplicate this, remove its existing keyframes, and then do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. Well, no, actually never mind, because it's just right there. Alright. So now if we look at it, those are blocking out nicely. Now, I want this to be, I'm going to be picky, do a little fine tuning here. Alright, sorry about the fast forward there, I was just getting trying to get a little picky of exactly what I wanted. Now we have both some of this on the bottom left, and this is a smooth cut here. Now there's only one thing left we need before this effect will look complete, and that is for some of the tree trunk to be exposed. Because if you cut away part of a tree, it won't work. Sorry, it doesn't look terribly realistic without it, because it doesn't look like the tree looks like it's paper thin. It has no substance. So to get that tree trunk, we are going to go to another image, and all these images are included. All these files are included in a link in the description. Here we go. And once again, we are going to do the same, exactly what we did earlier with the tree trunk. We're going to trace around the edge of the inner part of this wood. Alright, once again, to save time, I have already traced out this image and given its material. So I'm just going to bring this in. Saves time for everybody now. So now this section is easiest in wireframe mode. Make sure that there's no keyframes anywhere for this piece. Next we need a total of 3 of these. One of them will go. Actually, let me explain first. This box here is the masking layer. Anything within this, any part of the tree within this box will not render, except for this thing. We want this piece to be over the masking layer. Sorry about any jump there, my recording program's a little odd. So now that we have brought our tree, this piece over our masking layer, it'll appear, it won't be edited out by the mask here. Alright, we will now jump back to our main video background image. Alright, and we want this piece to be about touching where these 2 lines are, your masking line and your tree trunk line. If you get it to touch there, it'll appear more natural. And jumping ahead in our footage, we need 2 more of these. The second one goes at the bottom of the tree, and once again, we need to line it up. Alright, sorry about the fast forward there, there was nothing interesting. Now if we render out an image, we can see it looks like the tree cutaway actually now has a trunk. It isn't just some flat, paper-thin something that was just stuck there. Alright, now this is almost finished, but there's only one more thing that we need to fix. For one, these are appearing before they should. So we need to find the keyframes where they should be appearing in, which is the same keyframes that these masks appear in. And make sure you don't move the masks. You can leave on screen as long as they're not on top of everything, but these objects must be moved all the way off screen. Alright, now there's only one problem left to fix. The problem is this needs to be partly exposed. To do that, we will take this object of this trunk on the limb of the tree, use our knife tool to separate into two objects. No, sorry. Use our knife tool and split it along the line of the masking plane, and then duplicate the object. The first object, now that we have two identical ones, the first one will get the upper face removed. The second one will have its lower face removed. The one with the upper face should appear with this upper mask. The one with the lower face should appear only with the lower mask. So I'll be wiping keyframes for this. And once again, having it appear on the frame that its mask does. Now this limb looks more natural. So now the tree itself, the animation and the tree have been finished. The only thing left to do is to composite it into our actual video. To do that, we'll be switching shading over to transparent. So you can see here, shading is under the render settings. And going to compositing view, using nodes, we'll be adding an image node and an alpha over. And as the image, we are going to be once again using our video clip. Make sure to set the frames number here to something pretty high, and the start frame to 1. Otherwise, things will be out of sync or the video will freeze up halfway through. Now, if we render out an image, now remember to set your render settings to what your actual camera is here. Otherwise, you're going to get this. You will have scaling off, and your video clip will be, it'll just, everything will misalign unless you set these settings correctly. Alright, and sometimes we get a problem where it doesn't show up. If that's a problem, just switch the images here on the alpha over, and our tree is now in the scene. Now if we render out a video, you will see this, and this is the video that we rendered here. So I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry it's been a bit longer than I expected, but I hope you find this useful.